Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that really tries to cut through all the noise, you know, get straight to the important stuff.
Bring you those key insights.
Exactly. And today we're diving into something that's just exploding. Digital health apps, especially in cancer care.
They're absolutely everywhere.
Right. But the big question, the one we really need to ask is, do they actually work? Do they deliver? Because a lot of them pop up without much solid evidence behind them. So our mission today is to take a deep dive into the source material on one specific app. It's called the lung cancer app, LuCApp for short.
Designed specifically for patients with metastatic lung cancer.
Yep. And we want to figure out, what was its actual impact, quality of life, anxiety, costs, and also get into the tricky parts of researching these digital tools.
Sounds straightforward.
Not at all. And one thing that jumped out right away about LuCApp, it wasn't just cooked up by researchers and clinicians. Patients themselves were deeply involved in making it.
Which is, well, pretty significant.
Okay, so let's unpack this whole thing. Why? Why is there such a pressing need for apps like LuCApp right now? What's going on?
It's a really good place to start. Because the whole landscape of cancer care, it's fundamentally shifting.
How so?
Well, thanks to, incredible medical advancements, global survival rates are actually going up.
That's great news, obviously.
It is, but it means many cancers are becoming more like chronic conditions.
Yeah.
Things people live with long term rather than just these acute short-term battles.
Ah, okay, so it changes the kind of support needed.
Precisely.
Ah.
This evolution means patients need really robust long-term support for active monitoring, for self-management.
Right through their whole cancer journey. And their families, too, I imagine.
Absolutely. And it's not just about living longer, is it? It's about living better.
Yeah. Because many patients, they really struggle with symptoms from the therapy, side effects, stuff that often isn't managed that well.
And that hits quality of life hard.
Yeah.
It really impairs it, and sometimes it can even affect mortality.
Wow. Okay, and then you add in the concerns about healthcare costs just spiraling.
Which they are.
So that's where these digital tools like mobile apps start to look really attractive, right? As a way to be proactive, manage symptoms in real time.
Exactly. And we saw a huge test case during the COVID-19 pandemic, didn't we?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
How quickly remote stuff got adopted in oncology. It was kind of amazing.
It really cemented the potential, showed it could be done. So it's no surprise now that, major clinical guidelines like from ESMO.
The European Society for Medical Oncology.
That's the one. They now actually support integrating digital symptom monitoring into routine care.
And focusing on lung cancer like LuCApp does, the scale is just huge. You mentioned the stats before we started.
Yeah, it's sobering. Lung cancer is still the most common cancer globally. We're talking something like 2.2 million new cases, maybe 1.8 million deaths back in 2020.
Leading cause of cancer death in men, second in women. The need is massive.
It truly is. And that immense scale, it's exactly why these digital solutions feel less like an optional extra and more like a necessity.
To empower patients, you mean?
Yes, empower them to actively engage in their own care, especially now with treatments evolving. Think about oral anti-cancer drugs.
Right. Pills they can take at home.
Exactly. Which means fewer trips to the clinic for IVs, fewer face-to-face check-ins sometimes.
So that shift just makes digital tools even more relevant. They can bridge that gap.
Precisely. It really underscores why these technologies are becoming so applicable, so important in modern oncology. They put the tools right in the patient's hands.
Okay, so the need is clear. The context makes sense. Now let's get into the specifics of LuCApp itself. How is this particular app actually designed? What went into it?
This is where it gets really interesting, I think. Because our sources say it was a proper multi-stakeholder collaboration, meaning it wasn't just one group driving it. You had oncologists, palliative care specialists, health services researchers, software developers.
The usual suspects, maybe.
Kind of. But critically, also patient representatives, actively involved.
Ah, that's the key part we flagged earlier.
Definitely. They developed it as a not-for-profit thing, using what they call a participatory design process, user-centered.
Okay. And they hit a snag early on.
Well, yeah, a really telling one. They realized their standard approach didn't capture the patient's perspective well enough. It was underrepresented.
So how did they fix that?
They actually went out and did focus groups, specifically with patients, including those who were severely ill, to really get what they needed, what they expected from an app like this.
That sounds like the right way to do it. Really listening.
It absolutely is. That emphasis on participatory design, on testing and iterating with real users, it's vital.
Especially including patients with severe illness. Sometimes those voices get missed.
They do. And it's so important for building something that actually works in the real world, that meets expectations.
So it's about aligning what clinicians need with what patients need.
Exactly. Yeah. Which hopefully leads to better outcomes, maybe even lower healthcare costs if it makes things more efficient.
Makes total sense. Okay, so they designed it collaboratively. What did LuCApp actually do for the patients using it? What were the features?
It had a few core functions. First up, symptom reporting.
Okay, how did that work?
Patients were asked to fill out a questionnaire every other day. It covered 21 common cancer-related side effects.
Like nausea, fatigue, pain.
Yeah, things like that. Rated on a 0 to 4 severity scale. Pretty standard.
Okay, what else?
Then there was vital tracking, inputting their temperature daily and their weight once a week.
Simple enough.
And third, educational content, like a tip of the day for managing symptoms, plus an info section.
What kind of info?
Stuff about lung cancer itself, different therapies, even patient rights. General useful information.
Got it. And what about the doctors? What did they see?
The app was set up to flag things for them. It sent alerts to the healthcare professionals.
Alerts for what?
If symptoms hit a level 3 severity or higher, if body temp went up to 38 Celsius or more.
So a fever.
Right. Or if there was a significant weight drop like 5% or more over 2 weeks.
And when an alert came in?
The clinicians were trained to review the info and get in touch with the patient within 24 hours.
Okay. And they'd figure out what to do.
Yeah, and document it. Maybe just phone counseling, maybe changing the therapy, scheduling an earlier visit, or even sending them to the ER if needed.
Right, a clear protocol. So that's the app, that's the design. Now for the big question, did it work? What did the trial show?
The results.
Ah.
This is where we look at the hard data from the randomized controlled trial.
Lay it out for us. What was the setup?
It was a multi-center trial, 4 hospitals in Italy, non-blinded parallel groups, meaning one group got LuCApp, the other got standard care.
And how many patients?
They enrolled 100 adults. It was 48 in the LuCApp group, 52 in the standard care group. This was between July 2018 and February 2022.
But didn't they plan for more?
They did. They aimed for 120, but had to stop early.
Why was that?
The pandemic. It really hit recruitment hard. A common story for research during that time, unfortunately.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so with the 100 patients they had, what was the main thing they measured? The primary outcome?
Health-related quality of life, HRQO.
And the headline finding?
The headline was that LuCApp did not show a statistically significant improvement in HRQL compared to standard care. Not at 12 weeks, not at 24 weeks.
Okay, so on the face of it, maybe disappointing.
On the face of it, yes. But this is where we really need to dig into the nuance. Statistical significance versus clinical meaningfulness.
Right. Explain that.
Well, while the main result wasn't statistically significant, there was a hint, an indication.
Okay.
The data suggested that the standard care group might have had a slightly higher reduction in their HRQOL scores, meaning their quality of life got a bit worse compared to the LuCApp group, especially by week 24.
How close was it to being significant?
The p-value was 0.06.
Ah, so just above that traditional 0.05 cutoff. Very close.
Very close. Suggesting a trend, a signal that maybe something was happening there, even if it didn't cross that arbitrary line.
And were there other signs related to quality of life?
Yes. They looked at improvement using a threshold considered clinically meaningful, like a change big enough to actually matter to a patient day to day.
Okay, what did that show?
At 12 weeks, 33% of LuCApp patients hit that meaningful improvement mark, compared to only 17% in standard care.
That sounds like a noticeable difference.
It does. And at 24 weeks, the gap was even wider. 39% of LuCApp patients improved meaningfully versus just 12% in standard care.
But again, these specific comparisons weren't statistically significant overall.
Correct. Likely due, at least in part, to the smaller sample size from stopping early. But the pattern is suggestive.
Okay, so quality of life, no knockout blow, but some positive signals. What about other things? Anxiety?
Anxiety, yes. That was a key secondary outcome. They used the HADS scale, Hospital Anxiety and Depression Scale. Here, there was a clear trend towards reduced anxiety in LuCApp group at 12 weeks. The p-value was 0.07.
Again, very close.
Very close. And when they looked at the anxiety scores over the entire 24 weeks, the analysis confirmed evidence of lower anxiety among the LuCApp patients. It was consistently lower, though just shy of significance at each time point.
So another consistent positive signal, particularly for anxiety. What else did they look at?
Well, HADS depression scores didn't show significant differences. Overall survival also wasn't statistically different.
Although you mentioned fewer deaths in the LuCApp group.
That's right, 5 deaths versus 12 in the standard care group by the end of follow-up. But with the small numbers, it wasn't statistically significant. Can't draw firm conclusions there.
Understood. Anything else stand out?
Yes, supportive care needs. LuCApp patients reported lower needs across all areas measured. And importantly, in one specific area, patient care and support needs, the difference was statistically significant. P-value 0.05.
Okay, so a definite win there.
Seems like it. Also, a trend towards lower burden for the caregivers of LuCApp patients, though that one didn't reach statistical significance. P-value 0.27.
Interesting. Now, what about the money? The economic side.
Always important. The average costs looked lower for LuCApp patients, about €2,900 compared to $3,720 for standard care.
So an average saving of around $820 per patient.
Roughly, yes.
Yes.
It looked like LuCApp might reduce costs across the board, hospital stays, drugs, visits.
But there's always a but.
But again, not statistically significant. The p-value was 0.138.
And why might that be?
A major limitation here was that only one of the 4 hospitals could provide the full, detailed cost data. So the analysis was likely underpowered.
Ah, okay. So while not proven statistically, the potential for cost savings seems pretty strong.
I'd say so, yes. The intervention may be cost-saving.
And did the patients actually like using the app? Usability?
Yeah, they seem to. They rated usability pretty highly, average of 4.0 out of 5.
What did they like most and least?
Highest satisfaction was for the graphical design, the look and feel, 4.4. Lowest was whether it had all the features they expected. They got a 3.8. Still pretty good, though.
Okay, so a mix of results. No slam dunk on the primary outcome, but these consistent positive trends, especially for anxiety, supportive needs, maybe costs.
Exactly. And it brings us right back to that crucial question you raised earlier, interpreting these kinds of results.
Statistical significance versus clinical meaning.
Yes. And how that early termination due to the pandemic likely played a big role. It probably reduced the study's power to detect these effects definitively, even if they were real and meaningful to patients.
So those consistent positive signals, even if not always hitting P 0.05, are still really important pieces of the puzzle.
I think they are, especially for anxiety, supportive care, and the cost potential. They paint a picture of a tool that, even tested under really difficult circumstances, showed genuine promise.
Numbers only tell part of the story, though. You mentioned they also talk to patients directly. Qualitative interviews.
They did, and this adds such a rich layer to understanding the impact. They interviewed 7 patients and 2 caregivers who had used LuCApp.
And what came out of those conversations? What was the lived experience like?
Some really powerful themes. One was increased self-awareness.
How so?
Patients said using the app daily just made them more aware of their own condition, their vulnerabilities. It encouraged a more conscious approach to managing things.
Okay, that makes sense. Tracking things makes you notice them more.
Right. Another big one was a sense of reassurance.
From what?
Just knowing their doctors could see the data they were entering, it made them feel safer, more connected, both during regular visits and especially if a problem came up.
Like a safety net.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And interestingly, some found the app provided a space for self-reflection. Just the act of reporting symptoms helped them process things, leading to a greater sense of calm.
That's fascinating. Using the app itself was therapeutic in a way.
It seemed so for some. And one more thing that came up was altruism.
Altruism.
Yeah, patients felt good knowing that by participating, by using the app and giving feedback, they were potentially helping other people who would face similar challenges down the road.
Wow. That's quite profound.
It really is. And what's striking is how well these qualitative insights line up with the quantitative trends we saw.
Especially the anxiety reduction. The feeling of reassurance, calm, that matches the numbers.
Exactly. It really highlights why you need both, the numbers and the stories. Patient experience is just critical for evaluating these kinds of interventions properly.
But we also have to be realistic about the study's weaknesses, right? The limitations.
Absolutely. No study is perfect, and this one faced significant hurdles. We've already talked about the big one, the premature termination because of COVID.
Which messed up recruitment and just made everything harder.
Yeah, it was an unexpected calamity, as the researchers put it. A huge blow to clinical research everywhere at the time.
What else limited the findings?
There was a fair bit of missing data, especially for some of the secondary outcomes. That could definitely have contributed to the lack of statistical significance in places.
Data gaps are always tricky.
They are. And then there was the dropout rate. More people stopped using the app than maybe expected. About 17% in the LuCApp group were considered non-users. That's a bit higher than the roughly 11–12% seen in other reviews of digital health trials.
Any ideas why?
The researchers suggested a few possibilities for the Italian context, specifically maybe lower general digital health skills in some patients, perhaps some cultural resistance to using apps for health.
Okay, context matters. Any other limitations worth noting?
Just a few standard ones. Questions about generalizability: would these results hold true in other countries, other healthcare systems? Some variability in exactly what standard care meant for the control group across the different hospitals.
Yeah, standard care isn't always standard.
Exactly. And potentially some bias from using different data collection methods, paper questionnaires for standard care versus the app for the intervention group. It could influence responses subtly.
Right. All important caveats to keep in mind. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've taken our deep dive into LuCApp. What are the main takeaways?
Well, the big headline on quality of life wasn't statistically significant improvement.
Right.
But we found pretty suggestive evidence that it might help reduce anxiety, a definite statistically significant impact on lowering supportive care needs, and a really strong hint of potential cost savings.
And maybe most importantly, that patient feedback, how much they valued it for self-awareness, for reassurance.
Absolutely. That qualitative piece is huge. And pulling back to the bigger picture, what's fascinating here is the broader implication, I think.
Go on.
Despite all the challenges this trial faced, and the pandemic really threw a wrench in the works, the way LuCApp was created stands out.
The participatory design, with patients involved.
Yes. That process looks like a really effective model for how we should be developing these mHealth apps. It shows that when you really integrate the end users, the patients, you can create tools that genuinely tackle complex health problems.
You're like managing chronic diseases better, maybe more cost effectively.
Exactly. And it kind of reminds us that success, well, it isn't always just about hitting a specific p-value. Sometimes it's about that felt impact, the real difference it makes in someone's daily life.
That's a great point. It leads to a final thought for you, our listener. When you consider technology in health, especially technology designed with patients, what really stands out to you?
Yeah, how much weight do you personally give to that hard statistical significance versus the direct stories, the qualitative impact an app like this might have on someone's day-to-day life, their sense of calm, their feeling of being supported?
Something to think about.